but it's like, okay, my needs literally have to come first. And
Yes.
that was something that was just so like foreign for my family to understand because it was like, oh, you have to think about the others.
In this episode, we'll talk about honoring yourself, battling with loved ones, and feeling compassion for others. We'll dive right into Bre Michelle's courageous story, navigating through her family interaction and doing what's best for her. Be sure to listen in for all the details.
Hello, my wonderful beasties. It's Tina, your host. Welcome to the Courageous Inner Beast. Today we have Bre Michelle. Hi, Bre. Thank you for joining us. And please introduce yourself.
Hey, Tina. Thank you for having me. My name is Bre Michelle, and I'm a mindset coach based in Los Angeles, California. I love to empower people to just become the best versions of themselves through mindset shifts and mindfulness and self-love. So that's kind
Oh,
of what I'm about.
oh, that's so awesome. Like, just being that mindset, like there's everything is just about mindset, especially if you want to do some like action-oriented things. You can say one thing, but if you don't change it of how you think things, then how are you gonna move forward with the action too?
Yeah.
But thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it as being a guest here. So what is your one courageous story that you would like to share with us?
Oh my gosh. So interesting to think about just like one story, but I guess like a sum of everything would be, like when I was younger, kind of growing up, teenage years, I was your typical teenager, kind of always worried about myself. And I was told that that was selfish. And I thought, well, that's weird because if I don't worry about myself, who will? Obviously, like once I'm an adult and I'm out of the house, my parents aren't taking care of me anymore. They're not worried about me as much, because I'm a grown up. Who is going to take care of me and think about me? So, luckily, when I was still like in that phase of like being a teenager and thinking about myself, I realized like, hey, there's nothing wrong with this. This is something that I need to continue. Can I like critique and curtail it? Yes, of course. But
Mhm.
this is something that I need to carry into adulthood with me. So it was really just like the moments of me doing things such as maybe like we were having a family dinner and I was like the first person in line to get my food because I was like super hungry and I was growing and all of that stuff. So it was little things like that that kind of like led up to me just deciding, hey, I need to think about myself. And that's kind of what got me here to this point.
So I was curious that you said that in when you're in your teenage years, like was it your family kind of or maybe even friends too telling you like, hey Bree, don't act like this, or like you're supposed to be thinking of other people besides yourself all the time, or how was that for you?
Yeah, so it was like mainly my family. And again, like it was pretty frustrating just because I had that realization that, hey, if I'm thinking about everybody else, trying to make sure that they're fed and they have like everything that they need, who's actually going to think about me? Because it
Mhm.
wasn't being, voiced to me that, hey, if you stop thinking about yourself, like, and think about other people, we're always going to think about you and make sure you're fed and taken care of and all of that. And I just felt like, okay, yes, it's really nice to make sure other people have their food and all of that at like a family dinner, but it wasn't something that I should be doing like going forward in every single situation because this was obviously just food. This was a family dinner, but
Yeah.
this I felt carried over to other things.
Was it also meant like was it be expected of you to serve everyone else first? Like you're not like you know what I mean? It's like so the
Yeah.
person in front, right? Were you expected to be all no, all in the back of the line because everyone
Mhm.
else is important first, or as long as there's some people, for example, your grandparents or your
Yeah.
parents, they should go first, or you
Yeah.
know,
So it wasn't anything like that, surprisingly. Like you
okay,
would think it would have been like, okay, like the older people like eat first, but no, it wasn't anything like that. I think what I was kind of doing was every single time we would have a dinner, I was like the first person because sometimes things didn't start the time that it was supposed to. So I was like waiting, and it had been like maybe hours since I had like breakfast or lunch, for whatever meal that we were having together. And I was just like, okay, it's finally ready. I'm ready to eat. I want to be the first person there with my plate ready to go. So I think it was just kind of like this pattern of I was always like the first person. And that was like an issue for them. It's like, oh, let everybody else like go first. And I'm like, well, everyone else is like sitting around talking. You snooze, you lose. So
You're hungry, you already know what you want to eat. Like when you want to
exactly.
eat, you're like, I want to eat now. And
Yeah.
so wait, so how was the family dynamic in the sense of so for you, so when you're hungry, you go,
Yeah.
you feed yourself. So
Yeah.
how does your family dynamic of like, so when can you eat?
Right. So exactly that was kind of my question. So, interesting enough, they were just wanting me to kind of be a lot more, I guess, like observant and like mindful of everybody else who was there and kind of give everybody else a chance to get up and kind of go to the kitchen or wherever we had like the spread of food so that way they could also like just kind of be in line. I don't think it was like, oh, well, you have to go to the end of the line or you have to like wait until these people have eaten. Like it wasn't anything like that, but it was like, okay, Bre, like you're literally like the first and only person there. Everybody else is still sitting down. So that was something that was just so annoying when it was happening. And I, again, like I didn't understand it because I thought, well, if everyone else is still talking or, watching TV or just whatever they were doing, even if they were playing like a game, and if I'm not doing that or if I don't want to do that, they can continue. I'm just going to focus on like the eating, which is what I wanted to do. But it was kind of like, okay, we'll do what everybody else is doing. And then when everyone collectively is ready to eat, then go and like get your plate and serve yourself.
But at the time, like you'd probably be starving by then. You're like,
Exactly.
like if for example having a brunch or lunch with family, you're
Mhm.
already hungry by 11, but no one's eating yet, so you have to wait at 1 p.m. for example.
Yeah, crazy.
Wait, wait. So how did you said that it also kind of bled into your other aspects of your life? What other
Yeah.
areas did it lead to?
Yeah, so definitely just like with school, I was always a good student, but I would always make sure that I had balance. And it was never like I was constantly like just worrying and studying all of the things and not giving myself time to do like social things or even like personal development stuff. Because
Yeah.
back then I was still like I was already into that. And I was always reading books and like writing my goals and doing little like beauty practices, self-care kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
I was always into that. And, with school, with typical parents, oh, make sure you're studying enough. Like, oh, you need to get like better grades. You need to get all A's. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm getting good grades, not straight A's because
I
I
don't
did
think
like
most of us are.
geometry. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like math was like not my subject. So, I was getting good grades, but it was like, oh, well, make sure like you get better grades and do this and do that. And think about like your siblings who are younger than you and all of your cousins who are younger. So it was
Are you the
always
oldest?
pressure. Yeah, yeah. I'd
Okay.
say the
Oh,
old
oh, I too.
wisest.
Okay. I understand.
Yes, yes. So it was like that pressure as well, just to kind of like do everything like in this cookie cutter kind of way and
Yeah.
make sure that those who were younger that were looking up to me seeing what I was doing and then kind of followed suit. And I was like, I don't want to worry about other people when I'm doing anything in my life, so that's why I said it kind of carried over to other things because school was something. And then like once I got out of high school and like went to college, like that was a whole other thing. And then just, day-to-day life, how you do things when you go to like I don't have like a 9 to 5, but when I work with like some of my clients and we're like in person, how I do things with them. And I'm always, I think like considerate of others is probably like the best way for me to describe it, but I don't put others before myself, in the sense of, okay, well, if I'm really thirsty, I'm not going to say like, okay, well, I'm just going to sit and continue doing whatever I'm doing, but I know I need something because maybe I'm feeling dehydrated, or, I'm coughing or something like that. So I've just kind of, again, carried that into my life now, where if I need something, I will just excuse myself and get it. And yes, I'll offer to like get something for those who are with me, around me, but it's like, okay, my needs literally have to come first. And
Yes.
that was something that was just so like foreign for my family to understand, because it was like, oh, you have to think about the others. Like, what would they think if you just got up in the middle of the conversation or excused
Yeah.
yourself? Or, it's like, oh, be really mindful and respectful of others. And I'm like, I do that, but in a way that still allows me to honor myself and my needs.
Yeah, instead of like, that makes sense of balancing both ends. It's like, well, at least when you were younger and when you as a teenager, you
Yeah,
were like thinking, okay, I'm hungry, I want to eat.
yeah,
And whereas like on the spectrum where you're like one size where you and then your parents or your family were
yeah,
on the other side, it's like we need to overextend ourselves to other people and who cares what we need what right now, and then they're looking at you. It's like, what is Bree doing? She's not supposed to do this, and now you're it seems like you're more in the middle of like you said, the consideration of other people,
yeah,
but also honoring your own needs. Like if you're thirsty, okay, I'm gonna step
yeah,
aside, get water, and then also ask them, is like, do you want water too while you're getting water for
exactly.
yourself?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And so is it still, have they, are they still, I guess, thinking in kind of that mindset, or they're understanding more now from,
Yeah, so they're definitely more understanding now. And I've just noticed that them having their own kind of like shifts with things. So it's almost like now I'm kind of teaching them, which is really nice, because it was always
awesome.
like, oh, well, we're your parents, or we're, like older than you in terms of like older cousins, maybe aunts, uncles. We know best. And now it's like, oh, well, she actually is onto something. Like she knows what she's talking about. I'm like, well, duh.
Hell
Yeah.
yeah. And it like, was it, wait, so when did you have this realization that it's time to make this change and finally having this balance for yourself?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I can't think of one exact like moment when this just came to me, but I think it was just kind of like over the span of me getting deeper into like the inner work and having more, love and compassion for myself as well as others, and being able to look at others from this viewpoint of, okay, like they're just another human being. They don't know what they don't know, and
Yeah.
they're just trying to survive, to the best of their ability, doing things with the resources that they have and the knowledge that they have. So that kind of helped me to realize, like, okay, they don't mean it in this like mean or kind of like this weird way to make me feel as if like I'm selfish or whatever. It
Yeah.
was just maybe that's what they were taught, that's what they grew up doing. So they just wanted to kind of pass that on to me. And it was
Yeah.
just really taking a step back and kind of viewing it from that angle of, okay, it's not just about me. This is literally something that has been instilled in them. And they're just trying to make sure that I'm like, a nice person, like a quote unquote, like good human being. So
Yes.
it wasn't anything personal, it
Yeah.
was like, this is just kind of what we do.
Yeah.
So,
And it seems like you're like breaking the cycle in sense
mhm.
of like how your parents were. And you say you have siblings too. So do they also kind of see like looking up to you, say, oh, Bree's doing different? Are they also kind of in the same path or whatnot with you, or in the sense
Yeah.
of in this topic at least?
Yeah, I think so. I would say both my siblings are pretty like aware of other people for the most part, and they're very caring and loving individuals, and they're both their own unique ways. So I do think that just me being me and kind of taking the actions that I'm going to take, regardless of who's like watching me, has definitely made an impact on them as well.
Oh, okay, that's so great. That's so awesome.
Yeah.
So how is it now with everything that you need for yourself? Like, so what kind of how did you start it? Like, what was the first few steps that you did in order to understand that having that balance for yourself?
Yeah. So I think like the first few steps was definitely like taking a step back because I think it was, when I was a teenager, of course, again, like you're just always so like involved with yourself and quote unquote selfish. And then I kind of had this dip, this like tiny phase of where I was starting to think like, oh, well, maybe they're onto something. Maybe I should be putting others like before myself. And I just kind of paused with what I was doing in terms of like goals and career to help others. I'm sorry if you can hear that. It's pretty loud.
I can't hear it, so you go
So
ahead.
So I paused and I just kind of, regrouped with myself. And I realized it's really nice to be able to help others with their goals and their dreams, however, not at the expense of my own. So I think that's what really shifted me into like, okay, well, I can do both if I want to, but I have to make sure that I'm not letting myself down at the
Yeah.
end of the day, like because I'm the one who is committed to my goals and my dreams and everything. So it was just coming to that realization and knowing, okay, I'm going to prioritize myself again, like I was doing in my younger years. And I'm also going to just show up for people and be there when they need me to be there and offer advice when they need it, offer help when they need it, but not overstep and not ever do something to where I'm trying to make somebody like want to become like better or want to do something. Like I can't want it more than they want it for themselves. So that's what I had to realize. And luckily, again, this phase was very short-lived. So it's not like I spent like a ton of time like just trying to help people and push them closer to the things that they were telling me that they wanted. I just realized, okay, I can only control myself. And that is what I'm going to go back to doing, is just focusing on myself. And then again, being a support system for others when and if they need it. So I think that was something that I just had to realize. And it didn't take a long time either for me to realize that.
Was it like within a year that the time frame, or was it only a couple months and you're like, okay, this
Yeah,
is not
I
helping others at all?
yeah, so it was definitely more than a couple of months. I would probably say closer to like 7 months.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
so not a super short amount of time, but not like a very long amount to where I felt like I was wasting so much time and I'd, kind of missed out on the things that I was supposed to be doing. So luckily it was, pretty short.
Oh, okay. So wait, does that mean like during that 6 or 7 months, I think you were mentioning how like you were helping other people even when they're not asking for it? Is that
Well, it was
kind of?
kind of like, so how when people will come to you and then they're complaining about something and they're like,
Yeah.
oh, I just don't know what to do. So it's that kind of thing where I'm like, oh, you don't know what to do. Like, let's brainstorm. Let's come up with solutions. Like, let me help you. And, let's figure something out. So it was that kind of thing, like where they weren't like blatantly asking, like, oh, well, what do you think? Can you help me with this? It was like, oh, I'm just so fed up. I'm so tired of the way things are going. I don't know what else to do. And I'm just like, oh, well, let's figure something out. So it was
Yeah.
that kind of
Oh,
situation.
so at the time you were like the fixer person, like let's fix
Yeah.
it and let's
Yeah.
move on. But
Yep.
then but then you're coming, like you said, now that you're coming back to, well, if they want support, they could come to me and I'll
Yeah.
ask and they say no. Okay, we'll navigate from that. So
Exactly. And this was also before I realized that a lot of times people, they'll complain or they'll say things like that, but you can go in and you can try to help them all you want. But until they've done like the inner work themselves and unblocked whatever is standing in their way, they're
Yeah.
never going to make progress, and they're always going to become reliant on, somebody else, whether it's you or someone else in their lives, to kind of fight their battles and fix things for them. So I
Yeah.
just thought, okay, I don't want to enable anybody. I want people around me to be empowered to make their own decisions, to do things for themselves. And it's kind of like that saying of like, you can give somebody fish, but if you teach them how to fish, like they'll forever eat.
Yeah.
So that kind of thing. So now it's like I try my best to get people around me, family included, to go inward and have a lot of like self-reflection, because that is how they're going to just realize like, oh, well, I've been here before. What did I do last time? Did I like that result? How can I pivot? How can I change? And some things, it's not going to be that simple. Sometimes they'll need more help. They'll need their hand to be kind of held and doing some like reprogramming on levels that
Oh,
they just don't
yeah.
understand. But, for surface level stuff, it's like, oh, well, let me just become aware of what I've done before. And if I want to repeat that, or if I want to make changes.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. It's not as simple as all, because like even if you're reprogramming, you're reparenting yourself, and you're looking at yourself, like you'll be digging up so many things that you didn't know you were pushing down and suppressing. It's yeah, like I have my own inner work, and I knew it's ugly. It's ugly. I even had like ugly cries too. I'm just like, no, I still have so much work to do. And I also think that everyone has like have inner work things to do until they pass away. Like
Yeah.
there would never be like, okay, I'm at my best.
Yep. Yep.
It's not like now. And so yeah, and I totally agree with that too, of just working with yourself. And like you said, you can give a person a fish, but it's better to teach them so that
Mhm.
they know the tools, the techniques, the
Yeah.
skills to like do their own thing, versus like having this external validation, external environment, someone to be around there, to always be around there. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, I agree with that. And how are you with it now? I don't, it has been a couple years, I believe.
Oh yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, I think. Yeah. So how is it now? And like, how were your relationships back then? Has it kind of changed, or is it still kind of similar as it is now?
Yeah. So I would say they've definitely changed, because I think before, again, I was kind of in that like enabling phase of like, oh, poor you, let me like hold your hand and like, you know, help you with every single thing. Let me do it for you. And now it's like, I feel like I'm still compassionate. I'm still like nurturing to those around me, those that I care for, and clients as well. And honestly, everybody I come in contact with. Um, but now it's like from this place of, oh, okay, like you're going through that. I'm, sorry to hear that, especially if it's something like really big and really like activating for them. But now it's like, okay, well, what are you going to do? Like, what are your plans? Like, where are you at? Like, how do you need support? What kind of support do you need? Do you know what kind of support you need? So just getting them to start thinking for themselves. So that's kind of like the conversations I'm having now, even with my parents. And yeah, and it's like I'm noticing those changes with them, even like with how they're thinking, how they're doing things. Is it as immediate as I would like for them? No, because we all want the best for our parents, but
Yeah.
the changes are there and they're slow and steady. And that's all I can ask for, that they're open minded and they're actually open to doing some of this work and
Yeah.
having conversations that maybe in the past I would have never said anything, because I just wanted to keep them comfortable.
Yeah.
And I don't, rip off any band-aids, but I do try to get them to think and to kind of own their responsibility in all things that are happening in their lives. Yeah. Yeah.
That I can relate on that too. It's like sometimes you want them to get to that point already,
Hmm.
but at the same time, they're doing their best.
Yeah.
They're slow, like you said, slow and steady. You see the changes. They're seeing their mindset of their work, or even their perspective, it seems
Yeah.
like. And there's like there's no words for it. I'm just like, I just feel so warm for you and your parents and everything. Oh, I just It feels so good, and I love that a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, so so thank you for sharing your story, Bree. I really appreciate it and just being here with us. So I was curious of like, what is your one takeaway that you would like to share to our audience?
One takeaway.
Or you
Geez.
have a few, then
Yeah. Um, I'll keep it concise and short, short and sweet. Um, my one takeaway is to always honor yourself and to always do what you feel in your heart and your gut is right because nobody knows you the way you know you. And if we can just really trust ourselves and lean into that, opposed to looking for answers in others or like other courses, programs, like videos, like it's like we're always looking externally for the answers. But I just want people to know like we have the answers within. And sometimes it takes a little while to dig them up, but just trust in yourself, trust in knowing that you have the answers internally.
that hits home. Because I know that hits home because yeah, like really, like pretty much what you said, it's everything that could change. It all belongs in within yourself. Anything that you want differently is within yourself. There's nothing that can change but within yourself. Like no one around you, your friends and family can't change anything about your life. If you were to move to a new city or new country or whatever, it's still there unless you work in it within yourself. And
Exactly.
so, yeah. Oh, thank you, Rhea, again for sharing, and thank you for sharing your story. Really appreciate it. And
You're welcome.
I, it's like kind of also my own healing journey too. It's like, yeah, Tina, think for yourself. Do it yourself, like the balance and consideration, like consideration of others, having, being having the balance versus one way or the spectrum one way or the other. But
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you everyone. Thank you everyone for listening in, and I hope you really enjoyed this conversation. If you would like to get know more about Bre Michelle, please look in the show notes and description to get more information with her. And look out for new episodes every Tuesday on the Courageous Inner Peace.
Thank you for listening in. If you enjoy our conversation, please leave a review wherever you're listening and just give us feedback. It would be so appreciative. And thank you again for being here and listening to this story. Honestly, any woman that's sharing their story, it means a lot. So I hope you have a good rest of your day. Thank you.